A very warm welcome to you all. Tonight the question is textiles. When you think about textiles, you think about clothes. And when you think about clothes, you think that they are part of maybe the 5 most basic human needs: water, food, shelter, air, and clothes. And we have maybe, and we're going to hear about this from our panelists tonight, we have perhaps developed a kind of unhealthy addiction to the way we produce clothes and we consume them in these societies in which we live. And unlike an addiction to cigarettes or alcohol, which you can just kick and hope you never see them again, we need clothes. We need them to keep warm when it's cold, like today, or to keep cool when it's very hot. We need them to communicate, maybe to open up, maybe to close down, maybe to seduce, maybe to reject. Clothes are in many ways the way we express ourselves also. But the whole thing has become problematic because of the way we produce them, the mass in which we consume them. And there are going to be solutions presented here tonight. And so it's the second of our inspirational talks, and I hope it's going to be inspiring. Let me introduce the panel. We have Sigrid Barnekow, Mikael Lindström, 2 Swedes, and our French participant, Christine Browaeys. Sigrid, when I walked here tonight, I was thinking, you never think about what you wear. So I thought, let me, do I even know what fabrics I'm wearing? So I started, leather shoes, problematic. Ethically, environmentally, everything. Cotton, problematic. Bleached cotton, super problematic. Wool, problematic. I don't even know what this waistcoat is made of, so maybe you'll tell me. Am I a walking time bomb for the environment?
What a good reflection and question. I can say like this: I don't think you are alone.
Are we billions of walking time bombs?
Yes, I think part of why we're talking about it today, for instance, is that we need to increase the awareness.
Do you know what you're wearing? I mean, this is not a great pickup line, I know, but do you know? I would never say this to you in a bar, but this is special. Do you know what fabrics you're wearing today? Are you sustainable?
Yes, I know the fibers because I know about the fibers, but you're pointing on a very sensitive spot because it's actually rather hard to be a sustainable person, a sustainable consumer. We don't yet have all the options and alternative available, and that's why we need to do more innovations and progress when it comes to production and so on, which we will talk about today. But one thing that I can say, which is more important, that is that I act sustainable because the best way to act sustainable is to extend the life of existing garments. So what I'm wearing is pre-owned items.
Okay.
So that I can say.
Okay, excellent. Are you a fashionista?
Oh, that is a good question. I love clothes. I always have. Mm-hmm. So I guess I am, but I'm not a trend-focused person, which we might come back to when we're talking about consumer behavior later.
Can I get a quick definition, the difference between fashion and style from you?
Yes. So style is 2 types of consumer segmentations, two types of consumer groups who are motivated either by style or by fashion / trend. So those who are addicted to trend, they like to be updated, and that's a way of them to express. Versus those who are more into style, they find their style, they keep that more like a classic style throughout the whole year life.
A whole life, yeah. Have you found your style?
I think so, yes.
Right. What do you actually do, Sigrid? You have a presentation for us. What is it that you do every day concerning textiles?
Yes, let me have the first. So I lead one of the world's biggest research program around sustainable fashion, which is called Mistra Future Fashion. It's based in Sweden. However, as you know, sustainable fashion issue is not something that is just geographically for Sweden. So we actually work on a more international level. When you want to change something like sustainable or want to change the fashion industry to become sustainable, you need to look at all the different topics that are related to this. So then you have to think about how clothes are made, what type of fiber it is, how you do the production, how we as users of garments, how we act and behave, and also what to do with all the waste when we no longer want to have our clothes. So Mr. Future Fashion is a huge consortium with partners that comes together to explore, research, and find new knowledge, verified data about what is sustainable, and new innovations that can help us change this big system of fashion industry and consumption that we're having today. So we are a little bit more than 60 partners today, 13 research institutes who all come with different types of disciplines, expertise, who jointly talk. So we have designers from the University of the Arts London who work together with researchers like chemists, engineers, who are specialists on recycling. So that when you are researching on what type of design strategies you want to have in order to make sustainable products, you need to have the insight of what can you do with the garment once it's needs to be disposed of. Yes. And they are then working on a lot of different range of projects, and they can't do that without the help of industry. So we have fashion brands involved, like Filippa K, if you know the Swedish brand, H&M we also have other partners. Those are involved into, for instance, collecting garments if you hand in clothes in shops or to charity, like I Collect, which is a really big one, European. And we have also other NGOs, producers like Lensing and so on. Mm-hmm. So it's very important to have a lot of different actors that are engaged and involved within the whole process of a garment, from fiber to recycling. Mm-hmm. And the program was initiated 2011 and is funded by a Foundation for Strategic Environmental Research called MISTRA. That's why we have the name. Okay. But it's led by Swedish biggest research institute called RISE. So, if we then want to look at what is sustainable and how do we change this, let me say like this: that the system we have today, it's by design actually false from the beginning because it's linear. We take resources from this planet, we produce, make something out of it, and then when we're tired or it's used, it turns into waste. And we need to change it to make it circular. This is what we call about circular economy. It's also about enabling the resources that we have, but also to do new business out of this. It's not only sustainable angle, it's also to have a continuation of the economic system that we have today. So by doing this screen here tries to show you how also you need to understand how a garment live. Because if you need to understand what sustainable is, you need to see throughout the whole value chain, the whole life cycle, what type of environmental impact a garment do. And you have to do what we call life cycle assessments, where you assess that if you do one change in the system, what type of effect does it has in other areas within the system.
It's important to say that it's a system, isn't it? Because if you change just one thing, the system will eventually take over. You need to change it all.
Yes, and that is also why it's so complex, because it's not one single actor or one place in the system or throughout the life cycle that you can change and you fix it. As when you are changing a system, it needs to be different areas where it's you tweak it, you change it in parallel, so that the new system can rise. So I'm just going to give you short examples, what we do. Please. So in design, this is really important, because in design, that's where you actually start. We started by saying that it's strategic design, because it's no longer about what it looks and feel on color. It's also about planning for the process of the production, usage, and also recycling. So the designer has a really important role in the future. And go back, sorry. I will go fast. So here are our designers, researchers, they look into this. And then in the supply chain, and this is how our program is structured in order to showcase the whole system. And in the supply chain theme, we look at how can you enable the production that are used when it comes to our garments to be sustainable. So here we do life cycle assessment to understand what actually is sustainable when it comes to fibers and processes, because that is something that you really need to understand. There's lots of different definitions of it as well. We also look at microplastics, which I know perhaps all of you have heard of, right? There's been a lot in the news about microplastics that are shedding from fabrics. And the third theme, we look at the users, that is all of us, how we act and how we can change and contribute to a more sustainable fashion. Here we look at what type of business models can enable us to prolong the lifetime of garments, like leasing, renting, swapping, sharing. And then and the last one is, how do we close this? So when we have used our garments and when we know that there's this, you can't use it anymore, how can we recycle it and turn it into new fibers? So the idea of circular economy is that you always try to be as resource efficient as possible throughout the whole life cycle and make it as environmental friendly and climate friendly as possible.
Would you say that the straight system, the linear system, is broken?
It's definitely broken. And it is a challenge because if we're now operating this system, it's not that easy to change either. So it all depends also on the economic factors in the system that we have today.
Of course.
I can go next. So this is, Jurgen, a little bit to give the background to set the stage, what we're dealing with. I think all of you are here. You came because you're interested in sustainable fashion and you're aware that this fashion industry has issues. Yes. It is a big global industry. It's seventh biggest in the world. And it's also assessed to second dirtiest in the world after oil. And the production has actually doubled during the last 15 years. And the issues that the industry is facing, I mean, they're facing a lot of issues, and it's actually a really big, critical topic at the moment. And it's the environmental aspect of it, which for sure you know a lot about, and also that we as consumers are changing a lot our behaviors. We can take the next slide. And one thing when you look at what is actually sustainable and not, I think you will see that like you was also talking about what type of fiber is that you have in your garments. And we tend perhaps to think about that when it comes to sustainability. And as I said before, it's really important to understand what is sustainability. What is sustainable? And life cycle assessments shows us where the biggest impact is. So what you see on the screen now is the whole process and also a life cycle for a garment. And we tend to focus on the fiber, which is actually in the beginning there. In the beginning, really, you see the raw material and fiber production. But it actually is the whole production of the actual garment, weaving and so on, that actually is the most environmentally non-friendly, 70%. We need to think about that. To produce out of one tree, we get 20 kilos viscose, but it actually takes...
You're under attack from an environmentally friendly fly.
But it actually takes 14 trees to do that viscose. So that's just the energy.
Textile is not the only industry in which this argument holds. When you think of clean cars, for example, Tesla and everyone else is going on the bandwagon, you can say, okay, they're emission-free or very low emissions, but they still have to be built. They have to infrastructure built. They have to build the batteries. All that weighs on the environment. So it's a little easy to say we're focusing on one aspect and neglecting all the rest. And I see a parallel in textile. If we just focus on the fibers, but then forget what it actually takes to get those fibers into clothes and into shops and so on, maybe it's not so environmentally friendly after all.
No, exactly. You have to understand the complexity and all the parameters, and also that if you have a non-renewable energy, for instance, or you don't have as regulated markets in other parts of the world, you see that this has a bigger impact versus if you perhaps have a production that is placed in Europe, where it's more controlled. So, I mean, there are lots of different aspects to take into account. Yes. And
it looks like my wardrobe on a bad day.
And again, I don't think you were alone, actually. So this is actually a really big issue for us, that we have a consumption rate that has just peaked. And we shouldn't feel blamed about that. It's more that we need to change our mindset and actually understand that this is a resource. And this is where we have to act and extend the life of our garments that we already have, that we have lying around in our wardrobes. We know that if we would use it 3 times longer, the garments we already have, we'll have a less impact of 68% on the environment and climate. So this we can do by ourselves using it longer, or we give it away to charity, or that we actually sell it and understand that this is a value. This is where the new business model will come. A lot more services around sharing, renting, leasing, and so on, and reselling. This is where new markets will appear, because we need to utilize this more in this new system.
I was just asked to remind you that the bar is actually open, so we won't be drinking beer up here, but you can, and that's fine. And also, if people are standing who would rather sit in the front, that's also totally possible. There's room on the floor if you're okay with that.
And now, Jurgen, I was planning to just share with you one example of what we are doing in our program,
yes,
linked to this also, the waste mountain that we just saw. So it's estimated that 20% of our garments globally is collected. That means that we give it to charity and so on. However, I'm not sure if all of you know what happens with the clothes that you hand in, and perhaps you can have the impression that actually can turn into new clothes and so on, just as we do with paper and glasses. But it's actually less than 1% that is recycled into new garments. So today, majority of the clothes that we're wearing, the fibers, they actually are virgin fibers, and you can argue that they actually are non-sustainable, as it is. Majority is cotton and polyester is fossil-based, it's oil. So we need to desperately find new fibers, and we're becoming a lot more people on this planet, so we need to have more fiber sources. And this is a process that enables to actually do new garments out of old garments, separating polyester and cotton, which is the majority of the mix of the garments you're wearing here. And what you see here is 3 outputs. It looks very small. It is lab scale, but it will actually in future be able to go into existing processes, for instance, of viscose, to generate new garments, perhaps in 10 years' time. But it's breakthrough news that we actually launched just 3 years, 3
so
weeks ago.
In 10 years, you think we could be sitting here wearing viscose?
Hopefully. I mean, we're wearing viscose, but hopefully it's viscose that are regenerated, reproduced. And another example, which would bring me to Mikael's later subject, is a product we call circular design speed. This is something we do with the fashion brand Filippa K. And it's really exciting because the researchers go inside Filippa K and work together with the design team. And here they are trying to explore design strategies and exploring the speed of garments, how long time you have it. Have you thought about that when you buy stuff, how long you were planning to have it?
Probably until either it breaks or I get tired of it.
And what do you do when you get tired of it?
I put it in a recycling bin.
Oh, you do? You're very
yeah. No,
consumer.
I do that. Yeah. Or I offer to people around me if they're interested. But then it goes in a recycling bin. I don't throw it in the ordinary bin.
Oh, good. This is about the speed of garments. So today we have a very one model. You know, the production looks the same regardless if it is for t-shirt or for coat. So a t-shirt or your top, you know, you have it 3 times, or a coat that you have for 10 years. Here we need to think differently, and we don't think about how the garment can be recycled. We don't consider what type of fibers it is into it, so that it actually can be recycled and so on. We don't take into account, if I'm a designer, if you buy a coat that I do, what do you do with it when you are fed up with it?
I give it to a friend.
That's good. But if I as a designer think, hang on, I want you to become I can sell it further to another one. I can bring it back and I can provide a service to you. This is what they are exploring. So I can take the next slide as well. So now I'm going to stand up to show you, because this is a little bit complex. So they are actually considering speed of both product and materials. So when I talked about before about the coat versus a t-shirt, we're talking about product longevity. But if you look at materials in the future, if we can recycle polyester, actually, if we can do that several times, or we can recycle any materials, then actually you have a material longevity that is interesting to take into account. And this is what they are talking about, exploring then, if you have long life fashion, long life items, which we are all known to talk about slow fashion, then, I mean, this is what you normally say when it comes to sustainability, then you can explore, so how can you change the garment throughout the years? After 5 years, when you're tired of it, instead of giving to a friend, you can tweak it, redesign it, and so on. And how do you do that? And this is a lot of already existing theories on this, because this is what we know is good from sustainability point of view. The interesting thing is the opposite end. And here we're talking about fast fashion, which all of you, including you, I think, know that fast fashion is like, no, it's really, really bad. And of course it is linked to what I said before, that we have the same production process, regardless what type of product it is. And you know how heavy the production is now, right? Yeah. So what if we then recognize all the consumers who actually want to exchange their expression a little bit more, or often? Because, I mean, slow fashion has been around for a long time, but it's not that everyone is acting on it, right? So can we do this process of fast fashion more sustainable? And this is what they're exploring, and we call it ultra-fast forward, where we look at, can the new material be sustainable, the process lot more sustainable, less energy demanding, and also the usage phase, where you perhaps don't even wash your clothes. You just use it 3 times, 3 to 4, 5 times, and then you can give it away and put it into a closed recycle process. And what are the benefits of that, and how could that look like? And with that, we think that perhaps, the classic Friday party top that you will only use for 3 times, you can be motivated by that, because you can then choose this type of product. Next slide, please. So what we talk about, going back to circular economy, and I'm going to do this as easy as possible, quick. But we're looking at, when it comes to circularity, it is a garment throughout the whole journey from fiber to recycling, how to optimize so that the materials are used and reused and used and used. So when it comes to production, it is that you make sure you have no waste coming out. When it comes to usage, it is to make sure that we who use it the longest time possible. We can do it ourselves, we can do it via services, as I mentioned before, and we can also do it via redesign. So here the team tried to estimate how many services, how long will it, how many circles, and how long time will they be used. And you can take the next one. So they estimate how many wears, where you do no laundry, and you have a compost of it. And super slow, where you have 500 wears and 1,000 wears, which is somewhere in the middle. And they're trying to then figure out how does that type of product look like? What do you need to take into consideration? Because I think you all can agree and see that it's a very different thing of designing a product versus how we do it today. So you can take next slide. And this is the ultra fast forward that I mentioned. Lots of details here, but it's inspired by nature, because in nature we also have circularity, and it's not always all about slow. If you know the Japanese cherry trees, we love when it blooms, but we also know that it's so quick, but it's really, really nice. And this is a little bit the same thoughts. So here we see that we are looking at bio-based materials that are non-woven, so you have a much leaner process, less energy-driven. We look at, you can't see, but we look at what type of business model would it be. It's mass production. We can take the next one. And this is, it's a lot of details here perhaps, but it's how they try to, in the middle span, clarify what type of new production techniques can you have. A lot more focused on you as a user, more close to you as a user, more production on demands. We can take next one. And this is then the long life, which is then trying to symbolize also that you can pass it on to the next generation. Looking at materials that are polyester, recycled polyester, for example, where you have sharing economy also, like libraries and so on, so that you make sure that the product can exist and exist and exist.
Fantastic, thank you.
So,
Mikael. Yeah.
I just want to end by saying, so this is my last slide, just summarizing the system before I hand over to Mikael, who's going to tell you a little bit more about ultra fast forward and that type of material. But what you can say, we talked in the beginning about system, and the new system will be a lot more focused on us. We are in the room here and our needs, about the speeds of our future usage of clothing. And we will find these in different places, including ultra fast forward.
Thank you very much, Sigrid. Mikael, those of us who visited Sweden and have traveled in Sweden know that it's a long succession of lakes and forests and forests and lakes and more forests. And did I mention there are lots of forests in Sweden?
There's trees also.
Lots of trees in the forests. And everything that Sigrid just said, as she mentioned our addiction to cotton and polyester, and probably it is based on finding new materials that make this process actually possible. And I imagine this is probably very far from the truth, maybe because every house in Sweden has a view either of a forest or a lake, that you looked out of your window one day and what could it possibly be that I can use as a new material, and then you saw the forest for the trees and there it was.
Yeah, we like trees. We love trees. We grow trees. We harvest trees, and we process trees. And the forest industry is one of the biggest industries and the biggest producer of net export value. It's more than 10 billion euros per year net from the forest industry. And a lot of people in Central Europe think that we are killing trees. We are really keeping concentration camps for trees and all these bad things. But actually, it's our fields. We saw the trees, and then we let the next generation harvest them. And there is also just a short thing. No one plants a tree in Sweden in order to make paper or something. You plant a tree because you want to have the wooden material for construction. And that's the thing that pays. But you have to plant the trees quite dense, and after 25 years, you make a thinning. You take away them so that they can start to grow. And that's what we use for making paper. And after 40 years, you make a second thinning. And a really good tree for making things like this, you harvest after 60 to 120 years. So it's your grandchildren that will harvest. But we are trying to. You have probably stopped reading from your newspaper from paper, and we have to find something else to do with the forest because we are living from it. And trees, the major component in wood in trees is cellulose, and cellulose is a carbohydrate like cotton. Cotton is also cellulose, so we have the same main ingredient in the trees as we have in cotton. So that's why we think that maybe we don't need to use the polyester. We can use something from the forest instead that will resemble and feel and behave like cotton without being as bad as cotton is from an environmental point of view.
Not at all is bad, or like totally not bad, or
define totally not bad.
you define it, Mikael, for me.
No, it will be better, much better.
Okay, that's good enough. Okay, well, let's hear what you do with this find, in that you've looked to the forest and you find material that could be what we need in the future to solve some of this clothing problem.
Yeah. I mean, where is the need? Why do we have to do this? I think it's clear from what we have said so far. But we had the Paris meeting, we had the Paris Agreement, and next slide, please. And we have the United Nations environmental goals that we have to fulfill, which means we have to replace some really bad stuff with something that's less harmful. And this is our production unit. This is where we grow the cellulose. And next slide. You know, the photosynthesis produces 3,000 tons of cellulose per second. That's, I mean, it will be some tons during this presentation. And as a comparison, we pump 150 tons of crude oil every second. So there is, and this is the cellulose is the accessible cellulose. If you count all the cellulose in algae in odd places on the earth, it's about 10 times as much. So there is cellulose around. And some of it is cotton or linen, flax or hemp or other things. This is a tree. I mean, if we look at the tree, what we do, we make the construction wood, but the tree is made out of fibers. And I have to see this myself. And I mean, the tree is made out of fibers, and the fibers are what we use to make paper. An average fiber is about 1.5 to 2.5 millimeters long and 0.6 millimeters wide, or 0.06 even. And each fiber, and you mean a tree can be 10 to 30 meters high. So there's quite a number of these tiny small fibers. And each fiber is made out of fibrils that they are 20 nanometers wide and 1 micron long. So there is as many fibrils in a fiber as there are fibers in a big tree. And
have you ever estimated like how many T-shirts you can make out of a tree?
How many tree shirts?
T-shirts.
Tree shirts?
Tree shirts, yeah.
No.
No, but massive amounts, presumably.
Yes.
Yes.
And then the fibrils are made out of molecules, chains of cellulose. And when we start to do textiles out of the tree, I mean, we have been speaking about viscose, tencel, lyocell, all this synthetic or man-made regenerated cellulose. That's when we dissolve the wood. And then we spin it into something. We get massive filaments that behave a little bit like synthetic polymers, but they are quite nice, and it's cellulosic based. But next slide, please. This is the process. We can quickly decide that there's a lot of chemistry and there's a lot of energy, and it can be improved, and it's still, I would say that it's better than the worst cotton, at least. So next slide, please. So this is how the wood fiber is built up schematically, and you can see each fiber is the cell, a living cell in the tree that dies and functions for transportation of water and other things. And then we have the fibrils that make it up. And what we are trying to do now is not to dissolve the wood, but trying to spin. So next slide, please. So we have at the Royal Institute of Technology in Stockholm, they have developed a way of spinning these nanofibers into filaments. And these filaments, they are like silk, but they are the strongest man-made material made. And it's...
I think you can say that again. The strongest man-made material.
Yeah.
So it could last forever. Oh, practically.
Oh, it depends upon how you use it.
Yeah, well, if you wear it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
it would be
it's,
decades.
Yeah, it's not wear, it's strength.
Okay.
So you can't pull it.
Okay.
But you can, if you're abrasive,
Okay.
you will
Okay.
maybe destroy it. But this is something, and this is, and also, I mean, what they are doing in Finland right now is that they are spinning the fibers from the tree and making something that will be like very like cotton, and it's they call it paper yarn.
Okay.
And this is a paper machine. And this is something that we have done together with the University of Arts in London. We have a full-size paper machine in our lab, but it's only 25 centimeters wide. A full, really big one is 15 meters wide. And we can produce paper at about 2,000 meters per minute. So it's a very fast process, you know. And what we can do, we can take this paper and we can cut it into stripes and we can twist it into yarn, which can be used as yarn for knitting and weaving. But the interesting thing is, if we can make paper on this machine, we don't have to weave it. The weaving is requires a lot of energy just to get the shuttle going back and forth. I think it's the main energy consumption in the weaving. And it's quite expensive. But we just pour out the fibers on the paper machine and we produce something. And this is like flannel. It can be pleated, and it can also be, instead of sewing, is that word?
Sewing? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can weld it. And which means it becomes quite a much cheaper and faster process. So next slide, please. And this is a evening jacket made out of paper. And yeah, it feels like cotton. When it's really fresh, it sounds like paper. But it's quite nice. And we can do a lot of things with these materials. And I think we spoke about this ultra-fast forward, ultra-fast fashion. So next slide, please. You know, the UK Environmental Agency has calculated that if you buy these ecological cotton bags and use them when you go shopping, you have to use them 50 times in order to be more sustainable than buying a paper bag each time. And then you're not allowed to wash the cotton bag. And how many of you have T-shirts you have used 50 times without washing? I don't see any hands.
And are willing to admit it?
Yeah. Maybe you're too shy. So in the same, I mean, if we can make a T-shirt, or if we can make the party top, the Friday top in paper, and you use it once, twice, or 3 times, and you put it in the paper collection, there is an enormous gain. And this is a dress. Things are happening behind my back. You can all see it's a dress. And this is a dress that's, I think it's knitted in paper yarn, which is, I mean, it's thin paper stripes that have been twisted into yarn.
We would love to
knitted.
feel it, just to compare to cotton. You felt it. How does it feel?
I get so embarrassed when I touch women's clothes.
No.
No, it feels quite nice. It's more like linen than cotton.
Okay.
It's a little bit stiffer.
Okay.
But it's a matter of.
But it's totally wearable.
Oh yes.
It's comfortable. Well, you didn't wear this dress, presumably. Maybe you did, but
I never admit it.
Okay.
Have you tried it? What? No. Not this one. No. But it's from the Smart Textiles and the Textile University in Browaeys. And there's a lot going on producing paper-based textiles. Next. And this is something that we could, one size fits all. We have made a stretchable paper. So next, please. Next. And the tie was too short. So next slide, please. Next slide. Oh, we stretch it a bit. And next slide. Et voila. So we are really working on trying to develop new materials.
I want one of those.
I can send one to you. And last but not least, I mean, it's nothing new to use material from the forest to hide yourself. It has been all the way from the beginning. Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you. Thank you, Mikael. Christine, you are French and you grew up in northern France. That was the center of the French textile industry. How did that influence the way you thought about textiles? Is that the way you came to textiles?
Yes. I am a former ICT manager, ICT for Information, Communication and Technology. And I was a specialist in French Ministry of Higher Education and Research. So I'm born in Roubaix in northern France. And my grandfather was had fabrics in the field of lace in Caudry. You know Caudry. It's a big town specialized in the field of lace, like Sophie Alette. Perhaps you know, and. Mathematics and ICT are very virtual fields, and I have a great deal to challenge with textiles. So I decided to found a consultancy, T2L, T for ICT, TIC in French, T for textile and T for technology. And I imagine a new paradigm, texturgy for texture and technology. So a new way to design, to engineering, new textile engineering, to combine new technology and textile for new sensitive soft matters. So I explain. Textile in not only clothes. In the 60s, there was a big rise of mass consumption, and natural fiber are not enough to fabric to made clothes. And scientists imagine many synthetic fibers in a logic of substitution for natural fibers. And scientists imagine also new application, not only in the field of clothes, but in the field of medicine, in the field of sport, in the field of automotive. And today, in the world, there is 100 million tons of fibers produced each year, but a third of fibers is for technical textiles. A third. And in France, half of fiber for technical textiles. In France, the technical textile industry is very...
What do you actually mean by technical textiles?
Technical textile.
What are the usages?
It's textile for other application like sport, like medicine, like automotive, like agriculture, for instance. And there is not only weaving and knitting, but also non-movement. So you have a talk about paper, but non-movement is a new way to combine fiber, like papers, and there is a very, very growing sector in the textile industry. And there is also another sector, composite, textile composite. And there is also a very important field, but there is a very great problem to recycling composite.
Yes.
Because of the line of the chemistry inside the matrix of the composite.
You were, I think part of your approach was also that you were worried about, at one point, that France was very worried about losing its textile industry to low-producing countries, and therefore also was looking maybe for better high-tech ways to keep the textile industry going?
Yes, in northern France, for instance, or in the Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes, there's a very great factories in the field of sport and automotive, and carbon fiber also, like Quels, to elaborate new materials for automotive or plane also. And in northern France there is a new center, European Center of innovative textile, and I led a study 2 years ago, a study on new innovative textile materials in 2030. And I imagine perhaps the future of clothing is not textile. Perhaps it's not textiles. It's perhaps another materials. So I remember the sentence of, perhaps you know the book Brave New World. Brave New World. There's a sentence as in the book. Ending is better than mending. You remember, and it's very important today. This sentence, and I think that we have to develop a new behavior with materials, because materials are you are not the first on the earth. Materials were before human came.
So maybe we're entering what Mikael would maybe call a post-weaving society, and you would call a post-textile society. We are maybe entering something very new.
Yes. So perhaps I can explain my.
Yes, please. Please.
So it's exactly what I say textile as an unbroken link with the beginning of humankind. And so you see a flexible copper structure knit by robot. And we are always touching fabrics. Textile are one of the most intimate of materials. And next one, please. Today, we are living in a world pervaded by digital technology. We observe the increasing blur of human, digital, and materials, and we have an overburden of information. So I think textile with calm technology. Calm technology, perhaps there is designer and no, calm technology. It's a concept developed by Mark Reiser. Mark Reiser was a scientist, an ICT scientist in Palo Alto, and he said profound technology are weaving in the more daily of the thread of the day, and the profound technology disappears completely in our life. So we have to imagine new technology, not technology with material very hard, but with textile we have sensitive materials that can help to have a more humanly empowered world. Next one, please. So this slide, you can imagine a tree behind the fabrics, and the town just behind, and so I can see we are in a world where digital is more and more important. So I think that it's a good idea to imagine a behavior to rematerialize, like said François Dagonet. You know François Dagonet. He wrote a book entitled Rematerialize. And I think that textile is a way of recreating tangible connection to the world. It's perhaps we can use only the sense of you can see, you can hear, and you can see and hear with the network and communicate a smartphone with another, but we cannot smell, we cannot touch, and with textile, with smart textile, probably in the future, in a future, we will be able to communicate with touch. So next one, please. So you can imagine a new materiality that is itself vibrant and active. Excuse me. So you can see this slide. It's a slide from Pons Textile in Germany. It's in winter, and you can see the snow exactly like in the garden. So it's in evidence, it's a challenge that complex materials, design problems require cross-disciplinary approach in the future and today, of course.
That's it. Thank you, Christine.
Yes.
Thank you. Well, it was really interesting to talk about also clothes or textiles as communication. So where are we with smart clothes? Smart clothes that can maybe check our health, show our moods, get red when we're angry, blue when we're calm. We can imagine absolutely everything. Connected clothes. Where is research on that, and how far or how close are we to actually seeing this in the shops?
So there is T-shirt, for instance, to supervise health, and there is also fabric with a warm dispositive to have cold clothes or warm clothes along the years, for instance, and there is a lot of prototype, of course, but I think that it's a question of availability. It's a question of design. It's not a gadget. We have to imagine the good way of years, and we have to imagine a wear exactly as another wear in cotton or in wool, for instance. There is scientists have many ideas on the subject, but we have to co-design a new project, designer with engineer with scientists, and exactly like iPhone, we have to imagine new application, but with profound technology, with calm technology, very easy technology to very usable technology.
Mikael, could we imagine one day having maybe, just the one suit, and on Monday it's black, and Tuesday I needed grey, and Thursday maybe light, or Friday I needed waterproof? Is something like that even remotely imaginable?
Yes, I mean, if we don't consider the cost, we can do anything already today. Okay. And but I have to agree upon what you said. As scientists, we have our drawers full of fantastic inventions, but I've been working with designers. They get into my lab and they say, "Wow, what is this?" And I say, "It's just a failure." And they say, "No, it's fantastic." And I mean, as scientists, we try to make beautiful curves, complete statistical evaluations. But if you look on the market, a lot of the new materials have been introduced by designers. They have a problem they want to solve, and they are happy when they have solved it, and they launch the material. And but I think the collaboration, where we should let the designers into our labs and start to say that, "Hey, this is great. Can't you do something like this? I would love to have a suit that could change colors. Can you do that?"
No, but I'd like to add to this, because when meeting fashion industry and designers, there are lots talk about why don't we have a Tesla within the fashion industry. And also that is a very old-fashioned, old-traditioned industry. We're behind. Yes. And the technology is the solutions. Yes, that's going to bring so many advantages for us. And talking in the context of sustainability, I mean, the tool, how to get it, is very dependent on the technology development. So new processes, new materials, and so on is critical for this. And also, like, if you remember, I talked before about perhaps having closer production and so on. You have different aspects taken into consideration when it comes to transports and costs and so on. Due to that, you have technology possibilities that you haven't had before. So this is important. Having said that, though, new materials and new ideas also have to go hand in hand with sustainability, and make sure that it's not just back to the question about the fibers and new stuff that creates problems. We need to be track on the life cycle assessment, understanding how do we still make it usable in the system.
Of course, textiles are just one part of the big challenge that we have about how to prevent global warming, how to waste our resources, and to go and so on. But you've talked about designers coming together with the scientists, but I'm actually impressed to hear that you also seem to be looking at the consumers, and rather than what many designers are tempted to do, and scientists as well, if only the consumer were different, we could solve it all. But for example, by even thinking about a t-shirt that can be thrown out after 4 times, you're basically accepting that that's how we often use t-shirts. And rather than saying you've got to wear this 100 times, which is like not going to happen. I mean, if you go into a fast fashion store, you will realize that, nobody looks at labels or wonders how often they're going to wear this. They just get it, and because it's cheap. Which actually brings me to my next question, which I don't know if you like it, but you mentioned Philippe Paquet and their collaboration with you, and also H&M. Now, H&M and their big competitor Zara, they have brought excellent fashion to the masses with great designs that were previously really only available for a lot more money. They made it cheap, they made it accessible, and they made a lot of money in the process. Now you're saying they are associated with solving the problems that they have created, now co-created. And that reminds me a little bit of George Soros, the billionaire who became a great critic of capitalism once capitalism had made him rich. So H&M, I don't want to single out one company. There's plenty of H&Ms out there. They're just one of the more successful ones. But they are now helping to solve a problem that arguably they co-created.
Yes, that's for sure one way to put it, definitely. And also to mention, we have others just as H&M part of this in the program and so on. But this is, there's so many other brands who also are engaged and contributing to this. And I like to answer that by going back to what I talked when it comes to changing a system. Because I think that what we have today, what the reality we have today is something that has developed a very short period of time, if you think of it from a longer time perspective. We need to find the new system, and it cannot be one actor alone who does it. Or that you do changes in one way or one place in the system. So what I think is really nice, listening and talking to the fashion brands who are kind of the owners of the issue, even though we also all here actually are owners of the issue. They all are very humble and realize their contribution to it, but they also understand that it needs to be collaboration in order to solve this, to change this. So they're really coming together and trying to figure out and how to change it. And we here in the room, we play a very important role. Back to your point that the brand says that the consumers are not ready for it. And unfortunately, there is something to that. So we need to change and nudge the consumers to act differently in many different ways.
So that brings us to the final link in the change, or if you will, the circle, the consumers, because we've been talking about the materials that scientists produce, that designers ask for, that industry can maybe mass produce, post-weaving and everything. What can each of us actually do? What should we do? What should we remember in our daily lives that will alleviate the problem of the threat of the textile industry to our planet?
I get that question a lot.
Sure you do. It is the central question.
Yeah, exactly. So because as I said to you before, it depends also what you can do in future when we have all these possibilities, these alternatives. But what we can do today, foremost, I would say if you want to buy new, if you really need to buy new, always be guided by labels in stores and ask a lot of questions in stores, show your interest. The second, and this is my actually biggest recommendation ever, I will say, is to be part of extending the life of existing garments. There's so much nice stuff out there, and we know that consumers actually are motivated to act sustainable and want to do the right thing. However, they say they can't find the alternatives. They can't find the sustainable alternatives. And I think many people forget about pre-owned items. They're not, if you go shopping, you need a new pair of jeans, you go shopping, you can't see pre-owned items. You need to find it, right? You need to go specifically to those type of stores. But I would recommend to seek out for the pre-owned items a lot more. And then last tip is, we tend to talk a lot about usage behavior when it comes to washing. And actually, the washing is not that much. A life cycle assessment of a garment says that it's 3%, around 3%. However, 25% is the way we shop when we take our car to the malls. Which is rather a lot, right?
It is a system. It is a system, as you said.
And use the paper bag.
And the paper bag, exactly.
Do you think if there is such a trend towards vintage clothing, pre-owned, sharing and everything, that maybe old-fashioned jobs like tailoring could have a renaissance?
Yes. So linking back to technology, with the technology, we see now that this is how the new business models will appear, which will enable a lot more services, will also enable a lot more reselling and sharing and so on. And I will give you an example. There's a Swedish company called Sellpy who's realized that consumers have a lot of garments in their wardrobe and they don't know what to do with it. They bought it, they don't, and then they stored it in their wardrobe, and everyone feels like they don't want to deal with it. And then they recognize this, just enter the market, and offers to come there and pick up clothes, and then they sell it on like eBay, and they're earning a lot of money. And they just see an opportunity, and it's also very technical based. You have the app, you make it easy, it's a nice package, totally new type of consumer communication, and we as users and consumers, we appreciate this. It makes it easy, and we also realize that what we have in our wardrobes actually is value. It is a resource, we can earn money for it, of it.
And there are now companies, I know that there is at least one I've heard of in France, probably more, that you can actually rent garments for an evening. You need your Chanel suit for Saturday night, you just rent it out. So it's like Uberization of fashion that's happening. So that's the other buzzword. It's,
Yes.
from circular economy, but also sharing economy, Christine.
Yes.
We can mend your clothes.
Excuse
me. You can mend your clothes and Browaeys. It's a sort of customization. Perhaps there is also new methods for like 3D. You don't 3D conception. I can
3D prototyping and
yes, I can talk about Denit Peleg, perhaps. Denit Peleg. So you can imagine a 3D conception, 3D design, and with filament. So when your clothes do not fit, or you can recover the entire materials, and you have new filament, and you can make new clothes with the same methods, 3D methods, for instance.
Mikael.
But is that textile? Is it textile? 3D textile? I don't know. Textile is weaving, knitting.
Yeah.
It's the definition of textile.
Well, maybe we've coined this thing tonight.
So
the
future of
post-textile
clothes,
world
yes.
is waiting for us.
Is it the future of clothes? I don't know.
Yes, maybe.
So perhaps.
Mikael, what is your advice for consumers to hasten the way to the post-textile and weaving society? What should we do in our daily lives to stop messing the planet around?
I mean, for me, it's very hard because there is, like we discussed, a lot of people, they think they are buying bamboo socks or bamboo underwear, but it's bullshit.
I saw a bamboo bicycle recently.
Then that's true. The bamboo bicycle is bamboo, but I mean, when you're buying bamboo clothes, it's viscose. They just dissolve the bamboo in the same way as we dissolve wood.
Back to focus on fibers.
Yeah.
So is there a marketing hype going on that exploits our increasing sensitivity?
Yeah, it is, and that makes it very hard for the consumer, because who should you trust, and where do you? You can play with this one. No, I think it's very hard.
Yeah, well, who do you trust?
I'm extremely old-fashioned. I just buy things when I see them. I like this item, then I buy it. I never go shopping. I stumble over things, and then I keep them until my wife throws them away.
Okay.
And it's, or she gives them to charity, actually.
So that's your post-textile world.
No, I mean, NASA and also ESA, the European Space Agency, they have really developed fancy technology. They are spraying clothes. They're making the underwear for the astronauts using robots that are spraying them so that they really fit perfectly. There is a lot of really space technology that can give us a completely new ways of having things. And I also think that it's... I think the important thing is that we use materials that can be recycled.
Yes, yes.
And that's it.
Okay.
Now you can have it.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to add on it. So I think every one of you have heard about the plastics in the ocean, and also there was great news about doing fibers, taking out of waste from water, plastic in water. And this is also something, to me, is a sign of we as consumers focusing on the fibers, because it's very easy to understand. However, there's so much else that we need to take into consideration as we talk, the production, and also that we use the products enough and that we can recycle them. So we need to move away from just focus on the fibers.
Okay. I'm sure you are, some of you at least are burning with questions. Please ask.
Not a single question.
Oh, that's not true. And by the way, you're welcome to ask your question in French, and we'll translate it up here if you're more comfortable that way.
Hello.
Yes, back there. Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for your intervention. I think the one of the solution is recycling, but now there is a problem because lots of amounts of clothing are going to Africa and destabilize all the ecosystem of tailoring. This is we first we know something, and after we know anything. So it's really hard to have to make a clear decision. So this is only just une
It's a remark. Do you have a question
yes.
to one of the panelists also about that?
Now, what do you think? Because recycling, I think it's like you said, it's the final step before you have to learn to change your behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there is a big problem also with the quality of our garments.
Yes, I can comment on this. So when we talk about recycling, just for clarification on the terminology here. So recycling, I mean, it's both, you can see it as reuse and recycling. When we talk about recycling, it's when we assess that the garment is worn out and can no longer be used, and then you can, downcycle it or ideally upcycle it in the future. But you're correct. I mean, a majority of what we collect, which is like 20% of all garments, which is rather little, but still it's been sorry it liked me apparently, but that is, I mean, we don't know what to do with it. We try to do it the best way we can today a little bit, but this needs to be changed, of course. And going back to the design strategies that I talked about before, one part of this problem is, as you say, that we need to consider the quality of items in future. So, because there's a lot of garments out there that actually can't last long enough. So we put too much energy into producing stuff that actually at the end you can't use long enough.
Okay. There's another question back there by the bar. Yes.
Good evening. Thank you very much for all your presentations. My name is Géraldine Blanche. I am an attorney and I specialize in intellectual property law. And I'm currently doing a PhD on the question of intellectual property and the fashion industry. My question revolves around, are there intellectual property tools or other legal tools that may be used to better the fashion cycle and to rethink the future of fashion, which is, according to many people, hitting a wall right now? And one of my ideas, and I'd like your opinion on this.
I think I'll have to stop you there. You've asked your question, so
Okay.
let's see. Thank you. Can it be made legally binding to improve the cycle?
Yes, that's a good question. And hopefully we have a yes on that. I'm not sure. The thing is that it's such a complex system because since I think you all know, very few fashion brands own their own production. They outsource it to others who produce it. They have really difficulties on transparency from their suppliers, who uses a lot of subcontractors and so on. So there's so many aspects into this. There is ideally in future we have a better condition to actually control this. But for instance, there are discussions on having what you have here, which is called extended producer responsibility, which is how to collect the waste of materials, textiles, which actually is unique that you have this in Europe because no one else has that. And other countries are looking into this. And in that type of regulation policy, you can then design upstreams in the life cycle as well to put some criteria for how to design, how to produce, and so on. But it is a very complex topic.
It sounds complex. Mikael, you want to add something?
Yeah. I mean, in many cases, the consumer is very strong. If we as consumers behave and neglect the really bad guys, and you have a number of fashion brands that started with a deposit, so that if you bring the garment back, you get some money refund. And I mean, if we start to like these kind of things, we can alter. I mean, there's quite a lot of consumers around, so if they in some way could work together, we could change the world. But I'm very idealistic.
And very quickly, isn't there also a wider question of, is the textile industry reflecting the price of what they're selling? Does the price of a piece of clothing reflect the actual environmental cost? It doesn't. So because it doesn't, we're just going on. So maybe that was your question went into that sense as well. How can we actually price the environmental damage into clothing so we can no longer free ride on all the resources in our textile buying?
Yeah, exactly. And today, actually, it is easy to do bad, and it's hard to do good.
Yes, exactly.
And this is actually, I'm quoting a person from the fashion industry, and she's really upset because that fashion brand wants to do really good, but it's so hard. And it's back to that we are locked in the system that we have today. But there are also, we just published a report on assessing what type of policies can you do, like reducing tax and so on, that nudges certain behavior by users and certain business models. But there are also political discussions when it comes to why don't we pay more for virgin fibers so that you turn the demand towards more recycled materials.
Yes.
But then yet we don't have recycled materials, so we need to wait until we have that. You understand? So
yes, I do. Christine.
So is there a future for petrochemistry? What is a better sustainable fiber today? Can you explain? You are the material specialist.
It's not easy. I mean, there is very little plastics that are recycled, and when they are, how many people can distinguish by the high density polyethylene, the propylene, the styrene, the ABS, all these different
You've already
things.
lost me.
Yeah, I mean, you're all lost. You look under the plastic items, you see some symbol that says how it should be recycled, but it's all just a mixture. And I mean, that mixture has no value. You cannot do, it's just downcycling. If we had a few very good, pure polymers that could be recycled, then they would be really good.
Of course, yes.
It would be like metal that also could be recycled all the way. But I mean, in Sweden, in the paper industry, I think we collect 95% of the journals and paper and packaging for recycling. And in average, a fiber goes, I think it's 7 or 8 times. And it's not the paper we are recycling, it's the fiber. Because, I mean, the fiber can be a milk carton one time and a newspaper the next time and something else the third time. So it's...
More questions in the audience? Yes, sir, back there.
I would like a comment from you about an article that appeared a couple of days ago in Bloomberg, saying that in Sweden there is now, I don't know, a central electricity power plant who burns Hennes and Mauritz clothes in order to have energy. So Bloomberg said, forget about coal. Now we have used clothes that can regenerate energy. What do you think about this? In reality, happening sorts of recycling in a way.
Yes. So first of all, I feel a little bit like I don't really want to comment the H&M because we weren't involved in anything, so we haven't reviewed anything. It's so hard to have an opinion and make conclusions when you don't know for sure. But what I was thinking to say.
So could clothes somehow be turned into fuel?
Yes, exactly.
To produce energy?
Yes. So there's two things I would like to say about this, and that is that I was personally very disappointed and sad when I saw this news. Not that this happened in the fashion industry, because this I already know, and a lot of people involved, a lot of stakeholders already know about this, and there's a purpose of it. But the media handling of this, how they pinpoint one single issue, especially use also that they make an angle out of it due to that companies, because there are several companies in Sweden who actually express they want to do good, they want to change, they want to be part of the solution versus a problem. And due to that they do that, it gets the media attention. So the media uses that for negative PR. And it's really, really sad because the media didn't bring out the total complexity of what we are facing, what we are part of. And they could have done that. Instead, they focused on one single thing. And my last comment is that we actually know, we have done scientific verified studies about textile, what textiles plays a role when it comes to incineration. And it actually has a really good role. And if you ask the recyclers, the incineration folks, it actually is a sensitive topic because they would like to keep it. So it's not only negative that it gets burned, so it's just easy to think that, oh my God, they're burning up a lot of clothes. But it also, to some extent, there's something good out of that. But that is not the main point. The main point is that we need to understand the full complexity of this issue and tackle that. And also promote the ones who are trying to do change.
More questions? Yes, please. Here in the first row. Yes, please. There's a microphone coming to you. Yes, from your right.
Hi. So I was wondering, because you said the solution is to recycle the fabrics, but I don't understand what will be the right fibers to choose to wear today, because you said viscose is not good or lyocell is not good. I don't understand what will be the right fibers to choose to be sustainable.
I totally agree. No, but it is hard.
I'm a bit lost.
But I would say like this, given what we know today and the system how it looks today, I would say that recycled polyester, which is recycled, is out of PET bottles when you find that in store. I mean, that is something good because that is a recycled product. The issue is, though, that it can't be recycled again, but hopefully will be there in the future. So PET bottles, recycled, like fleece and so on, that is a good option. I would look also for materials that will last, like wool and so on, and less of blended fabrics. And then I would consider a lot more pre-owned items. versus buying new and invest in quality. I mean, that's actually what we can say today.
There's no fibers we can really say. There's no like fibers we can say is sustainable today, really, except recycled fibers.
Linen, please. Yeah. Nobody speak about linen, but it's a local and very nice fiber, I think.
Yes. No. Yeah. And let me give some perspective. So when we did an assessment of what is sustainable fibers and looked at what type of new sources can we have to exchange the big amount of volumes of polyester and cotton, because it is really big volume, and look at all the alternatives, we found that there were many several promising other sources that we can use. However, the challenge is that we can't meet the demand. So the demand for cotton and polyester, that is like, we're very many people on the planet, and we're getting a lot more people. But for sure, there are more natural fibers that are better. I don't know. I don't want to say better. I'm sorry. What do you want to say, Mikael?
We have time for one more question. Yes, please.
You spoke about textile libraries. So this is related to, well, the choice of a quality fiber. What is this? Can you precise? Textile library, what do you mean by?
So the question was clothing libraries is? Or?
Yes, clothing library, textile libraries. You spoke about something similar.
Yes. So this is sharing economy, where you can, just as you go to the library, you rent, or what do you do? Rent a garment for a few days or weeks, and then you hand it back.
Okay. When you spoke about 3 scenarios. Extra far forward, mid-speed, super slow. You mean about kind of clothing or textile recycle, the reuse of the textile? You mean you can use so much because you transform the fiber? Is this?
I think the right answer is considering speed, both from terms of materials, how long it lasts and how often you can recycle it, but also in terms of product, how long you have it in one way and then perhaps you redesign it or you do something else about it. So the key thing is that it opens up new questions for the designer and the producer to consider. If you think of how long will the garment actually last. Okay. If it's for 5 years, how do you make sure that it can last for 5 years? Mm-hmm. What fibers do you use? How do you produce it? How do you enable the usage for 5 years? Mm-hmm. And so on. Okay. So back to what we talked before, that there are lots of stuff out there that doesn't have that quality for 5 years, for instance, because we haven't considered that. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it's more clear.
Excellent. So no, we have to end it here. That will be your third question. I think I have to stop you. Thank you very much, all of you, for coming. I hope you found it inspiring. I certainly did. Our panelists will be joining you for a drink and are available for little conversations if you want to. And in the meantime, a big thanks to you, Sigrid, Mikael, Christine.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.